there is about 162,000 illegal aliens in Tennessee, and that was over a year ago. And we know that that number is growing. That means there's about 56,000 kids that are here, and that puts a burden on almost 50,000 in our local schools.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brandon Lewis, founder of the Tennessee Conservative, the Volunteer State's largest conservative news alternative, and I am joined by conservative stalwart Mark Pody, who is a senator representing some of the fine folks in Middle Tennessee, and we're going to talk about illegal immigration and some other issues. Senator Pody, thank you for being on the program. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here. And Brent, just a shout out to what you do and your whole organization and sharing what's really going on behind the scenes at the Capitol.
Well, you and three other people up there appreciate what we do. For the rest, the verdict is still out. No, it's been decided and they are not appreciating it. But all we do, it's so controversial, Mark, right? We report how people vote in committees. Oh my goodness. I mean, why would the public even want to know about that? It's crazy because it wasn't reported on for decades, but now it is. So talk a little bit about the problem of illegal immigration in Tennessee. Like, how big is it? Have you heard anything that the public might not be aware of as it relates to this? And then let's get into some of the legislation pieces of it you're bringing yourself that address this issue so that we can hopefully, finally turn the tide on this.
All right. So I want to unpack this just a little bit. So first off, when we're talking about votes in committees, I'm still pushing that every single vote everywhere should be recorded, including when we're voting for who's going to be in leadership and so forth. I think that all that should be public record and public votes. The secret ballot stuff is not something that I think is in the public's best interest. So I appreciate you doing that. And in the Senate, we do a better job of recording votes than they do in the House. But let me unpack just a second this illegal immigration. And it's easy to get emotionally involved where people say, oh, we're just trying to help or whatever. But there is about 162,000 illegal aliens in Tennessee, and that was over a year ago. And we know that that number is growing. That means there's about 56,000 kids that are here, and that puts a burden on almost 50,000 in our local schools. I'm going to tell you, to educate somebody in our school systems when they don't speak our language is more costly than what a student going in that does speak English. We got to invest more money in those 50,000 kids than we do on our own citizens. The average cost, the best we know, is going to be about $4,500 per illegal alien that we have to pay as Tennesseans. That means us as taxpayers are supporting the people that are here illegally, and our tax dollars doing it. That means it's taking money away from our veterans. It's taking money away from the students that we have. It's taking away from the health care that we have here in Tennessee. That's $4,500 per illegal. And education itself is $500 million, $571 million that we're investing in education this way. This is just law enforcement. When we try and track down how many of them are arrested, what are we doing for incarceration? It's $175 million. This just has to stop. I'm not trying to say that we don't need growth. I'm not trying to say that we don't want immigrants to come here, but they've got to come here legally. They got to come in here through the system, and it is unaffordable for us to do it. And unfortunately, the federal government has been shipping people here into Tennessee without us even knowing about it. And that has got to stop. And now that Trump's here in office and be taking the oath of office in just a couple of months, I think it's going to make a big dent for us right away.
So talk a little bit about some of the legislation that you have heard circulating that's going to be brought. I'm sure your ears to the rail a lot more than mine is up there, and lead off with the bill that you're bringing.
Okay, so unfortunately, if we look at some of the places that say how safe and secure are our voting, we're ranked as very high in the nation. is Tennessee's voters and such. However, there's still ways that people can vote here and they're not here legally. And I can give you a couple of good examples. When we have many places that are trying to register voters, and I want more people to be registered to vote, but I want those that are here legally to be registered. We don't have a good system in documenting that they are here legally. So there are some places that are going around Tennessee high schools right now. And when they're seniors, they're going to say, hey, go ahead and register to vote. Even if you're not 18 yet, we'll just hold that registration until you turn 18. And one of the things that they got to sign to register to vote is, are you here legally? Are you here as a citizen? Well, you know what? If I'm 17 years old and I'm checking that and I turn 18, well, you know what? I signed this as a minor. I signed it as a minor. So when they're saying, well, we're going to prosecute, they're prosecuting me that I signed it as a minor. So there's not much teeth in anything like this that we've got to do. So I'm trying to bring a piece of legislation that's going to be putting it on both the state that when we're checking to see if somebody's felons, when we're checking to see exactly what they are, that they're only going to be able to sign as legal adults, that they're going to be able to sign it, they're going to have to stand by that. So if they are signing incorrectly, they're breaking the law and we can prosecute that. You know, we're looking at what we can do to make it actually more teeth in the law for those that are signing illegally and voting illegally. We want that to stop. And I'm going to tell you something else. When somebody goes to vote and they bring a piece of paper to vote, sometimes they can bring even a passport. Well, the passport doesn't say that they're here with the right address. Okay, I mean, they could be having a passport and saying they're here and they're voting in both Alabama and Tennessee. You know, we want to make sure that the right address is on that piece of identification where they're bringing it in, that this is where they're voting, here's where they're supposed to be. And I want every single legal citizen that has the right to vote, but those that don't, we're going to make it very hard for them to vote, and we want some teeth in it that they won't do that.
Well, I would love to see that happen. Have you heard about any other bills that are coming? I just got off the transom doing an interview with Gino Bolso on his Trump Act. I've got a draft copy of that, but we're not going to release it until it's out of legal. And I love what's in it. Have you heard about any other pieces of legislation that you are hopeful have a chance of making it through the process?
So I talked with Scott Sapicki, and he's filed a piece of legislation. And that legislation actually is going to be looking at the color of our driver's license. So if you are here, you're here legally, you're a citizen, you'll continue to get the same color driver's license that we currently have, which is a white driver's license. However, if you're here and you're on a visa, a work visa, student visa, or you're temporary legal, but you're not a citizen, your driver's license would be a different color. That way, if you take that driver's license to go vote, the question is going to be, you can possibly still vote as a provisional ballot, but you won't be able to vote immediately like everybody else. You got to prove your citizenship. Not everybody can do that at this moment, and we want to clearly make it easier for our poll workers to identify those that are absolutely legal, they're a citizen, and those that maybe there's a question about it, we want to give those the right to prove that they're a citizen. Now, I believe that I was going to sign on as a sponsor, but I think Joey Hensley's actually picked up that bill, so I'll be signing on to it as a co-sponsor. But I think there are several pieces of legislation that I'm hearing about that's going on to saying, we're going to be addressing this. Now, I noticed that the AG that Trump just has announced today, out of Florida, I think that they've been very strong in illegal laws down in Florida, including deporting them and so forth. So I'm expecting some of that to happen as the country, as a United States Attorney General. I think that that's going to be helping us as well. As soon as that's done, I think we can actually make some stronger pieces of legislation going forward next year.
Well, one of the things that Bolso talked about, which I thought was very interesting, is clearly defining in TCA code what it means to be a Tennessee resident. Because I think when that mass transportation bill was killed in the Senate, Bill Powers went on the radio and said, well, it's hard to define, what's a Tennessee legal alien, well, who's a resident, and also when the subject of not having taxpayer funded education for illegal aliens comes up all the time, it comes up every session. Rhinos, that's my word, not yours, will say, oh, well, it's in the Constitution that Tennessee residents have to receive a free education if they're a child. But it seems to me most Tennesseans would agree that an illegal alien is not a Tennessee resident. Do you think that there's any chance we can define that properly so that we can save that 600 million in education dollars that we're currently, throwing away?
I think that we can absolutely make of this a lot more clear in code if that's what they need to do this. I think it's pretty clear, though. We don't have the obligation to fix every single person that's breaking the law. I think if we would then just enforce and deporting them, that would be a lot better opportunity for us rather than trying to pay for things that Tennesseans need to have on Tennesseans' radar first. And, we talk about make America first. Well, I think that we need to making sure that we make Tennessee first for our Tennessee residents.
Well, there's a novel idea. You'd have to scratch through corporations first, though. It may take a while to take the placard down, but I think you could put a new one up. So what other issues are coming down the pike that are not related to illegal immigration that you're excited about in this upcoming session?
There's a few that are coming up that I'm going to be carrying. One of them is going to be we are now growing meat in labs where it's not, actually it's called meat, but that's not coming from animals. And we're buying that. We don't even know what we're buying sometimes, like chicken nuggets. They're not all chicken. Some of these things are just masses of things that were grown in a lab. I want to make sure that we're defining things like that so people have the clarity to know if you're buying something like that, and that's what you choose to do, that's fine. But you should at least have the right to know what that is. So I want to be looking at that. I want to be looking at the executive orders again of the governor. Right now, the governor can say there is an emergency, and he can put an executive order out and suspend our rights that are supposed to be defended by the Constitution. So in his executive orders, he's able to say, we're going to move that Constitution aside for this period of time while we have this emergency and suspend them. And that is not correct. So I've looked at doing this in the past, and we've not been able to pass this bill. So we're trying to find another way to do that. And back in the year 2000, the legislature passed a piece of legislation to supposedly give the governor of the executive branch that authority. I'm going to tell you that I don't think that was a correct piece of legislation. I think what happened was, and forgive me if I'm saying it incorrectly, but I think the legislature took something that they did not have the power or authority to do, and that is to take somebody's constitutional protections away and give it to the governor or the executive branch. I don't think the legislature had that authority to do. We've asked for an attorney general opinion on some of these things, and we're not getting it back exactly how I need to have it yet. I got to continue to ask the questions, but I don't think that was a legal act of what we did. However, I'm not saying that that our current governor, and he used it a lot during COVID, I'm not saying that he was the person using it incorrectly, but any governor that would use something like that is far overreaching. You can't tell me that the governor should have the right to say this business is essential and that business is not. I don't care what that business is. It's essential to that family, and that family has the right to make a living any way that they feel is within the bounds of law. And it is essential to them. We can't continue to let any governor, have that right to suspend things like that.
Well, the whole situation in 2020 baffled me because I kept thinking at some point, though I don't have a whole lot of faith in man, I do have a whole lot of faith in men wanting power for power's sake. And I kept thinking, surely the executive branch and the legislative branch would eventually come to conflict. But instead, leadership in both chambers just got behind his skirt and let him run roughshod all over Tennesseans' rights. I mean, he put more small businesses out of business than any other governor in Tennessee history. And we ran the story. I think we were the only news outlet that even picked it up. Oh, but this is irrelevant, right? This is not 26% of small businesses go out like that. Well, that's not a story. And so we were the only one that reported that. And all the stuff that's coming out now, people are wanting everyone who portrayed all those narratives to be held accountable. But here in Tennessee, all those same narratives were pushed with state government money. And so I don't know that anybody's ever been called to the carpet for that, but boy, they should be. They should be. That's what birthed the Tennessee conservative. And I guess I am unfortunately Bill Lee's love child politically. If he had not been such a terrible governor, I would not be here because we wouldn't have had to do those medical freedom sessions to just get life back to normal. But I agree with you, and it has amazed me, Mark, that when you have brought this bill and others have discussed this, there's so much resistance. I mean, how little can you care about Tennesseans if you don't think that they should have their constitutional rights if one person says they shouldn't?
That is absolutely wrong. I'm just telling you. So we're going to be trying to bring a piece of legislation to. I'd like to eliminate it. I would like to eliminate that what the legislature so-called gave him, that power or an authority. I don't think I can eliminate it. I don't know how I can restrict it, but we're wrestling what we can do to get something passed right now. And I'm going to tell you, the way that we were set up as government, in the very beginning, it was the states that were the strongest. They're supposed to be the ones in charge. It's the 50 states. At that point, it was, of course, 13. But they said they're going to be the ones setting up the cities, the counties, and so forth. The states were the ones that said, here's what the federal government can do. So my next piece of legislation is something that the federal government is far-reaching on us. And I passed a resolution. I didn't have time to get a bill passed, but I passed a resolution earlier this year. And I'm running a bill this year that's going to say that no matter what the federal government does, even if they sign something with the World Health Organization, that will not have an effect or authority on Tennesseans. That the World Health Organization should have no authority. The United Nations should not have authority on Tennesseans. We are not authorizing that. And our government has clearly said, our state said that the federal government is limited in what they can and can't do. And they cannot assign our rights away on our health to some world organization, no matter what they think they're doing. And I want to make sure that we're very clear that no matter what the government does on a federal level, we're not going to have the enforcement here in Tennessee to go along with that.
Well, that's another head scratcher because similar bills have been brought on that. I mean, it's kind of in that nullification neighborhood. And what you hear the left scream about all the time in Tennessee media, which is like almost all of it, except for us, uh, is that, oh, you're going to start a civil war. What are we going to do? It's like we're going to lose that federal money, which is like, the biggest teat in Tennessee that always gets approached by politicians and comes with a billion strings. And so I would heartily support something like that, and I hope that we can get it through because I mean, a lot of stuff that came down the pike with those emergency orders are connected directly to that. I mean, the biggest reason that Bill Lee continued to, I think, stomp on people's constitutional rights is because the federal money kept flowing as long as there was a state of emergency. And so, trading rights for dollars, I don't think is a good business to be in. Guys, it's our annual drive. The last 2 or 3 months have been tough for the Tennessee Conservative because the federal races put a huge strain on grassroots donors because folks were supporting Trump, and as well they should. I did it myself. But if you scrape together some pennies, we need to rebuild the bank balance here at the Tennessee Conservative. I don't take any money out of this publication. I'm still about $173,000 in the hole. I do this for free. And so if I can come in here and do this as a volunteer, please help me fund the reporters that we do pay, and it ain't as much as it should be to do what we need to do. We have big aspirations this year, but without big giving, it's not going to happen. We'd like to send a reporter to Nashville. We're getting to where we can almost do that. We're still probably about, $14,000 shy. And we also want to begin a subscriber acquisition campaign, and that's going to take money as well. Because we need to build our list of conservatives in Tennessee for our publication, get the truth out there as we head into the governor's race. It's going to be critically important that we're engaged, that we pick a good governor, because Governor Lee has been a disappointment from COVID to red flag gun laws to bailing out and giving more corporate welfare than any other governor in Tennessee's history, putting more small businesses out of work. Failing to address illegal immigration, but in fact making it worse. Like, we need to turn the page. We do not need to be burdened by what has been with Bill Lee. We need to find a good conservative to run, and so that means we're going to be able to report to folks, hey, where do they stand on the issues? It's going to be really important. We've got to look forward and plan ahead if we're going to really make something happen. And if you give $50 or more, or a recurring donation, which we desperately need monthly recurring donations, desperately. You know, I had a lady email me today, and she had requested a free Tennessee for Trump bumper sticker, and apparently it got lost in the mail or something. And I look at her record, and she's not giving any money. And I'm not saying you have to give, but I'm telling you, if conservatives don't quit being so cheap with their political contributions to organizations and candidates, we ain't going to be able to turn this thing around. You cannot fail to put any money or time into the state and local stuff and then hope that Tennessee can move in a conservative direction. It is a fantasy that leads to a bad place. So guys, please do go to TennesseeConservative.com. And if you give over 50, if you become a $10 or more recurring donor, we will send you a Proud Tennessee Conservative tumbler, a koozie, and a couple of bumper stickers and a directory of your recently elected officials. Hear, hear. What other things are going on up there that folks might need to know about?
All right. So, you know, I am going to be bringing a piece of legislation about the 10 Commandments. You know, Louisiana actually passed one. Now, theirs was just this week kind of overthrown and saying that it was not going to stand up. I don't think they're going to appeal that to the Supreme Court. However, we're bringing one up that's going to be a little bit easier. And we've seen the pitfalls that the Louisiana legislature did. So I think we're going to make it a little bit easier in Tennessee to have something like that, standing up for that to be allowed to be in schools. One other thing that is very concerning to me, and I can't express this as much. I had a constituent call me, and they got a bill from a hospital. And they said, what is this bill for? And they said, one of your kids came in and had some medical procedures here, and you're responsible for paying it. This child was under 18, and the parent said, what was the procedure? And the hospital said, we don't want to tell you what that procedure was, but you've got to pay the bill. And so when it came to me, they were hiding behind something called the mature minor doctrine. And I want to make it very clear that any kind of procedure that's done to a child, the parent has the right to know. The parent has the full rights to know what exactly is going on with their children. And I want to come against this mature minor doctrine theory. It's not a law, but we want to make it very clear that a hospital or a doctor cannot withhold this information from the parents. So it's unheard of to me that any kind of hospital could say, here's the bill. We're not going to tell you what it was for, except you got to pay it. That is absolutely wrong.
What hospital was it? Do you know?
It was Vanderbilt.
Oh, really? Not the same organization that wants to chop the body parts off kids for money. I don't know where that institution went sideways, but boy, you want to talk about like if Satan can found school and get into it, like I'm like, this is like bizarro world to me. But it's sad. Good grief. Well,
Yes.
What else? While we're sharing these fun, uplifting nuggets, Tennessee conservatives, what else is going on?
All right. So there is one other one I'm going to touch base on, but you know, when we look at it, so I'm first saying I only want legal citizens to vote in Tennessee. Number two, I want to make sure that we're standing up for the 10 Commandments. Number three, I want to make sure we're pushing back on the federal government to try and not to bind us to the World Health Organization or NATO or anything else. Number four, I'm trying to stand up for parents and to make sure that they have rights. Now, the next one's going to be more of a policy issue in taxes and infrastructure. So this is kind of getting into the nitty gritty a bit. Our roads need to have some work done. And I want to have a funding system for our TDOT, for the Tennessee Department of Transportation. I need it to be reoccurring. So it's not going to be, hey, here's a one-time fund like we did of $3 billion. I want it to be user-based. So only those that are using the roads are going to be paying for it. I want to keep it up with inflation. So as it continues to grow, that we don't have to keep coming back for more funding. And I want no new tax on it. So I'm trying to make sure I hit this. And one of the things that we can do is this. I can say the sales tax that we're currently collecting. So if you're buying a car, whether it be new or used, or you're buying a tire, whether it be new or used, that money will be directed directly to TDOT. Now, I'm going to tell you that one of the things we're supposed to do as a state government is our infrastructure. This is going to be about $1 billion a year, but it's money we're currently collecting. So it's not a new tax. If you buy a tire or a car, you're going to use it on the road. And these cars are going to cost more down the road. So in the future, so that tax will actually go up because it's a percentage of the sales tax. And I think that this is going to make all of our criteria that I said, put that money into the infrastructure. We need it. We need it now. That means we're going to have to make choices. And I believe we can make these choices. Some of the choices that we could stop paying, to me, would be diapers. It is not the state's responsibility to have a diaper for every single baby. I'm just telling you that that is not our responsibility. There's a lot of things that we're paying, like for illegal residents here. We got to say, what is the things that Tennessee state government should be paying for? And infrastructure is one of them. Stop paying for the things that are nice or emotional, but it is not in our realm to be paying for that.
You know what? I disagree with you. I think that diapers for illegal immigrants in Tennessee is a constitutional right. And I'm gonna stand with both of my feet on this. Good grief! I'm sure somebody will write an article saying just that here in 5 minutes. But nonetheless, anything else that's on your mind, I'll give you the last word. And I really do appreciate you being here.
No, I'm going to just tell you, keep up the work you're doing. You know what? I know that you're not the favorite person that's up here with legislators, but you're the one that's shedding the light on it, and it takes the light. If we, the people, stop being the people, then government's going to run wild. And it's up to you and organizations like you to shed the light. The only thing you're trying to say is, here's the truth, here's the votes, here's what's happening, and dig down to it. And if people don't like that, they know what's going on. And I think that's what we're supposed to do, is watch what's happening and go forward. So I appreciate all the hard work you do.
Well, thank you. That's why the First Amendment is enshrined in both the U.S. Constitution, and I think it says in ours, the General Assembly shall never pass any laws regulating the free operation of the press as it relates to how they do business. I mean, I've copied and saved that one for when the Campaign Finance Board tries to drag me down there, where the kangaroo court that crap is. That's something that needs to be reformed this year. I mean, you've watched this. These people are eating biscuits, and these conservative groups, and they're dragging them. They're dragging them in front of this kangaroo court. And even other members are saying, this looks like weaponization. We don't need to be looking like this, but they're doing it anyway. What's his face? The pencil neck guy with the bald head? I can't remember his name. Lawless. That's an appropriate name. That guy needs to go. He's an embarrassment to the Senate or whoever promoted him. That's not what we're here to talk about. But I will close by saying this. I appreciate what you and others like you do. What is it? One of the senators called a lot of GOP meetings are bless me clubs, and everybody just gets around and blesses each other. But I'm telling you, when recognition is due, I like to give it. And it is so freaking hard to be a conservative in the General Assembly. You wouldn't think that's the case, but it relegates you in many ways to financial and political obscurity, as far as campaign contributions from the big corporations and the PACs, and then climbing up the leadership ladder. And so you and others like you make a tremendous sacrifice politically and personally when you decide to go along with your constituents instead of the corporations and special interest. And that takes a special kind of bravery and commitment, and people around Tennessee know you for doing that. And so thanks.
All right. Thank you, Brent. Appreciate what you're doing.
All right, guys. Brandon Lewis. Here we are with another remarkable interview. Please share it with folks that are like-minded conservatives if you want to make sure that we keep Tennessee red and moving it in a conservative direction. And look us up anywhere you get your podcast, social media. Until next time, I'm Brandon Lewis, signing off.